Hi there, I'm Alice. Today I'll be talking about dating trans women with gender dysphoria. So this question came up in our Facebook group a couple of weeks ago, and it is a common question and it is quite difficult to navigate. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the triggers that will increase our gender dysphoria, and then some ways that you can be proactive in making sure that your partner is comfortable. So, and of course, this is conversation that's coming from our Facebook group. If you're interested in joining, just search on facebook.com supporting men who date trans women. So, gender dysphoria, what does that mean? So, for trans women, we experience a unease when it comes to mixed match between our biological sex and their gender identity. So, if there are certain actions that will remind us of our previous experience as a man. It will trigger uncomfortable feelings and make us feel unattractive, and will make us feel unaligned to our new womanhood. So yes, there will be certain things that you'll want to avoid. So I'll talk about 4 common things that we'll see while dating. So first one would be when a man comes up and says, "Hey, I really like trans." And even though they're talking about trans women, that actually translates to I like trans men, I like trans women, I like cross-dresser. It could be whatever that falls under that umbrella. So what that translates to is they're not going to be attracted to our woman identity. Our womanness is more important than our transness. It's important to let them, like for men, to appreciate our transition, but we want men to make sure that they see our womanhood and rather than what we were. So, yes, when folks say I like trans, it is confusing. The second thing would be when a man will say, "Hold up, I'm new to this." So, this is very frustrating because for a lot of trans women that have transitioned several years back, they're just dating like any other woman. And so when they're on a date and they go through getting ready for the date and have this conversation, flirting around, and the man comes up with these excuses like, "I'm new to this, I haven't dated a trans woman." Well, that just is signifying that we are different from any other women, and it's a turnoff. We just want to be like any other woman, and if you're going to treat us like a separate other, then you're losing brownie points. So be careful of that. The third one, when you're on a date and you first get to know a trans woman, don't ask about her physical transition. This is a very common question in the beginning and completely distorts the connection. Well, you can talk about your interests, or talking about family, or talking about just where you are in life. Like if all the dating partners before you have asked the same question, it gets very annoying. And so instead of focusing on the pain and the suffering that we've gone through, how about we focus on the blossom or the flower that we have blossomed into? So focus on the womanness. And for the fourth one, that actually has to do more of in the bedroom situation. So when things are connecting and there's romance and getting physical, I have seen this in the past where men will kiss me, but instead of doing any other sensual activities like caressing me or kissing my neck or being to gradually get underneath my clothes, they will go directly to my genitalia, and it completely distorts the experience because that is something that's going to trigger me. And so I would rather be able to have a nice experience being almost like an unwrapped present. But if it's just going to be like all wham bam and done, that really takes away from the feminine experience, or at least what we crave. So, and that topic, it has to do more with just dating a trans woman, but more of understanding what a woman wants in a relationship. So just because we're flowing with 2 different identities, and to be aware and to be patient so that your partner can be comfortable with you. So now that I talked about some of the common triggers, I'm going to go ahead and go into what you can do to be proactive. So if you're dating a trans woman, the best thing you can do is treat her like any other woman. Go at her pace, at her own pace. So, and then also put her needs before your own. These are things that are told to you all the time, but they just get pushed aside because there are some really strong sexual wants that are involved. And yes, that's valid, but it's not valid to overimpose and cross boundaries in order to get those cravings resolved. And it's not necessarily going to go away if you're trying to do hookups. Our sexuality is much more than a wham bam and done sort of experience. So, but yeah, that's life experience or life lessons. So some things you can also do for a trans woman. A lot of women will say, in general, not just talking about trans, but for cis, they'll say, I want to be treated like an equal, so don't do things around gender roles like open the door for me. I can handle that and open my door. For us, we are going from a transition from being a man to a woman, and we're actually finding our strength in our femininity that translates a little bit different from what cisgender women would see. So reinforcing gender roles generally are something that helps us be comfortable and reaffirm that you actually do see our womanness in our identity. So doing things like open the car door and walking closest to the road on the sidewalk, or saying yes ma'am. These are all things that are just reinforcing that you accept her the way that she wants to be seen. So super important, and these are brownie point tips, so I hope you're writing this down. Super easy, but there's a lot of men that mess up, believe me. Okay, so, and when it comes to being physical, so communication, so when you're in the bedroom and things are getting hot, ask her what she's comfortable with. It's up to her to be able to communicate what parts of her body she is comfortable with you touching and doing certain things. And it varies from trans woman to trans woman. It's not just apples and oranges, right? So communication, and that has to go with just relationship skills and be able to work around and be able to understand what your partner is looking for. Okay. Now, for the men that are trans attracted, so you will get discriminated. You have oppression, I see it, where a lot of trans women will reject you because you're attracted to a non-trans woman, where you prefer that she didn't have bottom surgery. So, but here's the thing, is we don't get to choose our sexuality. So it's actually healthy for the men that are in these situations to create a boundary, saying, and then communicate about your sexuality, saying this is actually my preference, but I don't have a choice in it, and I am working to love myself while respecting my partner, so that I can be in a loving relationship, and be able to communicate these out, because it comes off as a fetish. And I realize that men that have this journey feel like it's a fetish, but then when they find a trans woman, they fall in love, and all of a sudden, all these things, all these beautiful emotions start unraveling that you would never guess and never dream of. It can distort the experience. So it's not just a fetish. At first, it might feel like that, but it's a whole lot more. You're just finding your other. You're finding the person that you're built to be with. So to communicate that and allow her to know that regardless of your preference in genitalia, you'll always see her as a woman. Super important. And if you want to solve this problem overall, what can you do? Become a trans advocate. Get involved with the LGBT. Get involved and understand our oppression that we see, and talk openly about your attraction, and talking about how trans women are naturally beautiful, how they are. If more and more men will talk openly about this, we will have such a drastic difference in media. So we would actually have a positive character in a movie that portrayed a trans woman, and it's so rare. So right now we have associations with like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs and Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's like we want to move forward, right? And so one thing is like Pose, or if you get to see Sense8, Wachowski sisters did a wonderful job portraying a trans woman as who she is. And it was not to be like a murder victim that we see in all these like crime TV shows. So it is up to you. And if you want to contribute and solve this social issue, you will be rewarded. you will be able to date more trans women and be able to find the partner that matches you. So it's a win-win. So those are my tips. And just remember, love, love, love. And I love you. Take care.